Welcome to Your Trust Stack, a podcast by GGWP, where I talk to operators, engineers, and policy leaders about how trust and safety works in practice. I'm your host, Joy Pagorni, and this episode we are joined by Annabel Ashalley-Anthony from Melanin Gamers. And hello, we are meeting with Annabel Ashalley-Anthony.
Hello.
Hello. I was wondering if you wanted to give an intro to yourself.
Okay, sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Annabel, and I'm the founder of Melanin Gamers. That's a gaming company that promotes diversity and inclusion in the video games industry.
Fantastic. And Annabel and I met last year on the conference circuit, doing a couple panels on diversity in gaming. And you put those together for us, Annabel, and we had some really great conversations. I think that we had really nice audiences at both Develop Brighton and at gamescon.com. But if you could talk a little bit about what Melanin Gamers does and kind of how that intersects with the diversity in gaming topic, that'd be great.
I think everything MG does is Melanin Gamers, MG for short, because I'll probably be saying MG, so everyone knows what I'm talking about, at the root of it is diversity and inclusion. And just making sure that everyone feels included in the video games industry and is not excluded. So MG is for everybody, but obviously our main goal is to make sure that we're all represented in the video games industry authentically and correctly. How we do that is with different things, and it's kind of evolved throughout the years. When we first started, we started as a community. And I would say we're definitely still very much a community on Discord. We play games together, that sort of thing. Just because we want a place where people can just play games and not have to worry about like racism, sexism, misogyny, all of that, all the isms. It's just the place where it's like, oh, a breathing space kind of thing. You know, when you're at a conference and there's like a quiet room and you just go there to escape, and that's MG. It's just like, I can breathe for a little bit. And that's kind of how it feels in the Discord, still to this day. And that's, I guess, on the ground level. I guess on the higher level is we also consult on games. In two different ways, actually. When we created the consultancy, it was in 2023, and it was created out of a need. People kept asking, oh, can you help me with this game? I want to make sure that these characters are represented. And I didn't know it was called consultancy. I just thought I was giving my opinion. But my friend Rose from Xbox, she was just like, that's consultancy. They should be paying you for that. And I was like, people pay for my opinion. Yes, because you're paying this data and research, all the stuff that you've done. And I was like, okay. And so I kind of wanted to formalize that and actually, do the work so I knew what I was talking about. And it wasn't just my opinion. Of course, opinions are very important, but my lived experience is also important, but research is too. Because I'm someone who, because of what I'm talking about, the nature of what you're talking about, it gets challenged a lot. Like, are you sure that didn't just happen to you? Are you sure this? And then when you bring out the facts, this thing happens to so many people who look like me. So, and the fact here, the fact there, the fact there. And that's what I'm a firm believer in, and backing up a lived experience with facts. I guess because I live with my brother and he also works at MG and he likes to challenge everything I say. So you have to come with facts or don't even voice an opinion. And so MG's consultancy was launched to, I guess, do that. And we both we consult on in-game assets. So that's actually like character creation. So we worked on a few different games for that, ranging from smaller games to like much, much bigger games. But also sometimes we consult on the studio itself, like how they want unconscious bias training, what policies they should be up to date with, all of that sort of thing. And so sometimes it's actually they were like, how can we make this a better space? How can we hire more people of color? And sometimes I'm cautious about that because it's not just about hiring, like the first Black person you see because it's Black History Month. It's also about is that place also conducive to like retaining them? There was this saying that Cephas Williams said when I went to one of his talks, and he said when someone comes over and they're in a wheelchair, you move things out the way for them, you make sure that they can get around because they're in a wheelchair. And he said that analogy should be used for like if you have one demographic at your company and now you're introducing others, have you made sure that you've moved things away, you've changed things away? You can't just think that having things exactly as they were is going to work for everybody. It's not. So you have to make sure that everything at your company is conducive for everybody and inclusive. So that's what we also help consult on as well. So that's how MG does it. We also have a stream team. I don't manage the stream team anymore. We help like streamers, people of color, and people from underrepresented backgrounds and low economic situations get a foothold in the gaming industry, I want to say, by giving them opportunities, and we do workshops and that sort of thing. So yeah, we do a lot of different things. Thankfully, I don't have to do all of them because we have a team.
Yeah,
So yeah.
that's what teams are for. So that's great. You're doing all kinds of stuff. And I would love to talk about one of your most recent projects that you can now actually talk publicly about, the EA project. Want to talk about that a bit?
My God, that was it. It was almost like a dream come true as a little kid. I've been playing Sims since I don't remember how long I've been playing Sims for. It's one of the first games I remember when I think of one of the first games I played. And to work on a game like, especially the pack that I got to work on, which is Royalty and Legacy, which features West African. So there's 3 different maps in Royalty and Legacy, and one of them is set in what would be West Africa's Sims version. And it just felt some of the things we got to work on, like, and Nancy the Spider is an Akan, like, from I grew up hearing a lot about like Ghanaian folk tales and that sort of thing, because my dad was very much firm believer and he wanted us to learn our sort of history and art, and he didn't like, obviously we were reading books like Cinderella and all those sort of things, very Western stories, and he was like, you guys should learn the Ghanaian ones, but and Nancy is a Khan. I thought he was Ghanaian, obviously growing up, but he's actually a Khan, and that's a region of West Africa that also includes Ghana. And to have someone like a Nancy the Spider that is so integral to like my childhood memories about Ghana, so many young Ghanaian children will recognize a Nancy the Spider of the West Africa, will recognize a Nancy the Spider. He is in the game, The Sims. I can finally say that now, and working on that, and just like it just felt amazing. And also having to do the research, because I was in Ghana at the time we were working on this game, and I went down to like the museum, and they was showing us around about this is Nancy, this is where he came from, and all this sort of stuff. Like, that rich history is now in a game that I get to play and that other people also enjoy and hear about those stories. And I think getting to know somebody is sharing a story with them. And I feel like sharing the story is like a little piece of you is with a little piece of them. And that, to me, was one of the most, obviously working on the whole game was amazing, but the fact that Nancy's in there, it's such a game changer. And there are so many other things, like what they're wearing, so like the tradition, some of the food that they're eating, like jollof. Traditionally, it's West African. Obviously, Ghana and Nigeria are going to fight about who did it the best, but it's a West African dish. All of those things are in the game for people to enjoy and to read about. And that history, and that, I feel like, that due diligence that EA did for The Sims, I really, really thought this is not just you just ticking a box or asking, oh yeah, okay, but this is the ground research that was gone into a game that people can, because Sims is all about playing with life and imagining that you're somewhere that you're not. And to make that as real as possible, you have to really do the work for that, because you can imagine you're in West Africa. You're hearing stories about Nancy the Spider, and there's going to be a tree called the ancestral tree. And in Ghana, we have this big tree. It's called the big tree, not very inventive, but it's one of the biggest trees I've ever seen in my life. It's huge. And something similar to that, and in other countries like Danny, who's at Bonic Sims from the UK, she's Nigerian background as well. She was also working on it. They have something like that in Nigeria, and it's like all in West Africa. We have sort of similar themes, and to have that in the game, where being like connected to your ancestors, but before like formal religion came to Ghana, that's what we were practicing. We were very in touch with our ancestral homes. In some of the villages, you'll still find that they'll like give offerings, they'll talk to their ancestors and that sort of thing, and that is also in the game. So it's just like those little but exceptionally significant um touches in the game that were included, because we were involved in this, because someone like me with my lived experience of being from Ghana, growing up, being able to speak the language as well, all of that stuff gets put in a game that I've been playing since I was young, and now I'm working on something like that I know that if I'm glad, it's weird to say I'm glad someone like me was working on it, because as a player, I would want somebody like me who would actually give a full and honest opinion, like, look, this is how it's going to be done, and this is what we feel like when we play this game, and those are things that are in it. Because for other packs, they've done really well to represent their culture, or whoever they got to ask about that culture. And I'm glad that we got to work on something that was very sort of close to my heart as well. So yeah, I loved it.
That's
I loved
great.
every second of it.
That's great. I've worked on product teams where they at least recognized that someone who looks like me probably shouldn't be in charge of all of the research for any of the African American or any African hairstyles and clothing and just kind of cultural pieces. So I think it speaks quite a bit to how much EA put into respecting that community and respecting the attention to detail that you guys put into it. So that's really
Oh
great.
yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned jollof and you mentioned some of the clothing. What are some of the other pieces that we can expect within this expansion pack?
Oh my goodness, the hair. Hair in the Black community is such a bone of contention. Black hair, how to style it, how to do it. I think like 2 years ago there was the Killmonger cartwheel, which everyone was talking about, because all the games suddenly had that one hairstyle from Black Panther's Killmonger, and it was like we couldn't get away from it. It was like hair has been something that has been argued about, has been talked about, black hair in gaming for the longest time. Oh, we can't do it, we don't know how it moves, and all of this sort of stuff. And that is one of the things that I sometimes measure a game on, depending on the game. If it's a small indie game where everyone looks pixelated, of course not. If it's a game where you have customization and there's like two black hairstyles, I'm like, what is this? And there's like different styles for every, and black hair is very specific. You know exactly what it looks like if it's done correctly. And it very rarely is. To this day, it's still not done correctly, despite how many open source free sources as well that there is out there. Like when they did the Dove crown, they gave away so many free sources of hair and how to code hair. So you didn't have to pay for it. This was free. And still some games get it wrong. And that was one of the things I was like, if we get the hair wrong, doesn't matter what else we've done. Scrap the whole game. We get the hair wrong, everyone will understand that you didn't do your job well. And so the hair had to be correct. And hair with royalty looks very different to normal hair. Of course, in all royals, like they embed gold into the hair, different like sort of like jewels or stones, and that has to be in that game, or you're not royal. You can't just have your everyday hairstyle, because we're very expressive with our hair as well, especially when it comes to royalty. And I was like, this has to look good. It has to look dramatic, has to look amazing. Or if the hair is covered with like a scarf, or the Nigerians call it a gele, we call it a duku. Um, but it looks almost identical, which is because we have so many of similar cultural aspects in West Africa, which was really great, because I was like, oh, we have the same thing and we can do the exact same thing. Everyone will know it's West African. But it has to look good. It cannot look bad, because so that was one of the things that I was like, yeah. So we spent a lot on, even with this one, the hairstyle that's on the cover of the game, that there's a black sim and she's got like very dramatic hair. We worked on that specific hair for ages, because we were like, oh, it has to look like that. Going back and forth, and it was really amazing to see like what's like, okay, yeah, we can change this, we can't change this, and what was great was being at this, because I worked on different games, and it depends when they bring me on the project. At the beginning, at the middle, at the end. At the end, it's very difficult to change things, because I understand it's expensive. I know everyone has EAD pockets. Some people are like, oh, we can't change this. But I'm like, well, then I don't want my name on something like this, because I didn't co-sign this, because you've brought me on too late. At the middle, sometimes that's still difficult. But because we were at the absolute beginning, we got to like go from the ground up. We got to like, oh, this does not work. even like when we were seeing like concept, okay, this works, that doesn't work, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So that was one thing I was really like, the hair. Has to look good. It has to be royal hair as well, because it's a royalty pack. It's not just like normal hair that you do every day. So yeah, that was one of the things that was very like sort of crucial. That thankfully was also listened to. But um, I now want to appreciate how much work goes into a game, because I've never been at the beginning of such a major game, like smaller games, of course, but it was just like so many like, oh, we have to go through this person, that person, that person, so many before like something got approved. So we have to be quite thorough in our feedback, like, oh, I don't like this, or what do you like about it? This has to look good because of X, Y, and Z, and it has to look like this, and because of this reason. So your feedback has to be very thorough, but you have to be succinct. You can't just be writing some massive like, oh, this is what makes me feel like this is what it will make people who look like me feel when they see this hair. It has to look like this because of that, and this is where it sits, and this is examples of research that I've gone and seen similar styles to this. And so that's another thing that we did a lot. It's like, this is the picture inspiration. If it doesn't look like this picture, you're doing something wrong. So yeah.
Well, this is an amazing example of how a brand works with their audience and works with the community to make sure that the representation's where it needs to be, and it just gets reflected in the way that it needs to be consumed by that audience the right way. I wanted to switch gears a little bit and talk a little bit about using this as a great reference of a great example of how that can be done right. When we're talking about community and the responsibility of cultivating and maintaining the community, the vibe, if you will, how much of that is the responsibility of the brand, and how much of that is the responsibility of the actual members of the community? And where are some of those lines um, that are more in the responsibility of the community as opposed to the brand, or in the brand as opposed to the community?
Oh, that's a difficult one. That's a question I get asked a lot. And I'm, I don't, I used to say 50-50. It's not. It's because one has more power than the other, depending. At the beginning, at the middle, at the end as well. So, for example, some communities are, I wouldn't say they're set in stone, but it's very difficult to shift the way they are, because at the beginning, they allowed toxicity, or they were like, oh, it's just a bit of ribbing. That's gone too far, or maybe we can't control it. It's out of our control. The community does what it wants. What can we do? I feel like that's a lazy answer. It's like your house is very messy. And oh my days, I can't do anything. Where do I even start to clean? But you start slowly. And you're in charge of that. So I feel like it's part of the community, but mostly it's people who are in control. Like if you've created a game, then your community is becoming toxic. It's on you, the creator, to say like, this is what I will not allow. We will not allow this behavior in this game. There's a game coming out, and I'm in the Discord, and there was a bit of like, oh, people were like going back and forth, like two different members, and one of the moderators shut it down. Like, don't do that. We don't do that here. Don't behave. This behavior that you've exhibited, you kicked out. So okay, that sets the tone of maybe, or I should maybe pull back on how. And that was, and only the moderator can kick people out if they have to. So everyone else is saying, oh, okay, that behavior is not to be tolerated, but only the moderator has that power. Other people in the community, they say, oh, don't speak to each other like that. And that can get somewhere, but can only go so far. If the moderator was like, oh no, it's all good, floodgates will open. So it's where the power lies. The power lies with the moderator, the creator. More power lies with the moderator and the creators, rather than it does with the community. The community still has power, don't get me wrong. And sometimes it can feel overwhelming, because it's like, oh, the community has so much power. But how did they get there? You gave up some of that power by not saying anything. So if that moderator hadn't said anything, the power would shift slowly to those people who were just the loudest voices. Now they have become in charge of a game you've created. But if you shut it down initially, So the power is a fluid thing. So it's not on one or the other. It's who has the most power. And it sits originally with the creators of the game. And by slowly not saying anything, you let it go to the community. And if the community is not a good community, well, you've lost. So that's sort of how I see it. But for the most
Yeah.
part, it's on the creators of the game. Do
Yeah.
something.
And I think that there's different things, to your point, that you can do at the different stages. So pre-launch, beginning of the game, you can set the tone, or you cannot set the tone.
Yeah.
And the midstream, if you haven't set the tone and it gets away from you, there's methods that you can use in community management, in messaging to your users, in automation that you can do. So even if you didn't say set your policies where you didn't anticipate a certain strain of toxicity that was going to be happening, and so you maybe didn't have policies in place that took care of that, you can still address it midstream within the community with different tactics. Again, like you were saying, if you have a moderator presence, if you have a community management presence, that's a great way to do it, because they can usually assimilate and talk with the community. If you don't have that sort of presence, if it's just kind of pop-ups, messaging, different kind of maybe forum posts or emails, you can still communicate a shift in the strategy, a shift in the policies that's happening. And then again, automated tools, you can start screening, bleeping, removing, giving context to certain pieces of content that come through, and removing that. I think another great thing is, in the vein that you worked with EA, you can put together a representative portion of your audience who can help you decide maybe where those guardrails and those boundaries of the community can be. So I think like a advisory board or something to that effect, a council, if you will, of users to tell you kind of what should and should not be, like maybe show the new policy changes to them and get their feedback on that, so that you have some buy-in from some of the super users inside the community.
It's true. And there's so many tools nowadays that there's really no excuse. Like, oh, I don't know, where do I start? Trust me, it takes a Google. There are so many companies now that are just like ready to help you with that whole process that you don't even have to worry. So when they don't do it, it just feels like, is it intentional? You know, that's
Yeah.
how sometimes I feel like that there's so much help out there that you could get to fix the problem. That it
Yeah.
feels like you want this, you like this culture that you've cultivated. So
Yeah, yeah. Or there's companies who try to reinvent the wheel and try to, start from scratch when you're like, we've been doing this for decades. But maybe your specific even problem we've been solving for decades. Why are you trying
exactly.
to come up with a brand new solution? Always ready for a brand new solution, but acting like you're the first community to ever go through a bout of toxicity or some sort of issue that's happening. It's always good to kind of tap into those who have been doing this for a while and the brain trust that exists out there.
That's true.
Cool. Well, this has been an amazing conversation. Thank you. I knew it would be, because you're fantastic to hang out with and talk to. So, is there anything else that you have coming up that you wanted to talk about?
Anything else that we have coming up? Panel talks, I guess. We love a good panel talk here at MG, don't we? We have some panel talks that we're going to be doing throughout the year. That means the start of the year, so taking it slow, but there's a few panel talks that we've already been scheduled in till October. I'm just like, that's so far away. But yeah, some people get ahead. They're like, oh, are you free? I was like, sure. I think I am, because I haven't done anything, but it's October, so I guess you're first. So yeah, we have a few panel talks coming up. And that's the main thing that we're focusing on this year. But any projects, we have a few projects working on. I can't say, but the only thing I can say is the panel talks, because that's we've organized that. So yeah, and some community events too.
Great. And if people wanted to find out more information about Melanin Gamers or any of your other projects, where should they go?
Oh, they should go to, we have a website called the Melanin Gamers. So just type in Melanin Gamers and it gives you everything. Well, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, the whole shebang. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, this has been fantastic. Thanks so much for joining me, and we will talk again really soon. Thanks,
Thank you
Annabelle.
so much for having me. See you later.